Our next and final keynote speaker for our speaker series today is Dr. Andrew Sixsmith. Dr. Sixsmith is a professor in the Department of Gerontology and the director of the Star Institute at Simon Fraser University. He's Associate Scientific Director of AgeWell NCE, Canada's Aging Tech Network. His research interests include aging, social isolation, technologies to connect people, technologies for independent living, policy and digital divide, theories and methods in aging, and understanding the innovation process. His work has involved leadership and advisory roles in numerous major international research projects and initiatives with academic, government, and industry partners. And I think...
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I saw Gina's note there, and I don't see Andrew in the room yet.
My program actually has him down for 10:30.
Yes, and I think we have the research Colloquium now. So we're going to go back to the floor for some extra networking time for a few folks. Alana, if you want to come meet us, and we'll just double check the order of what is up, and we'll go back to the table.
Yes, it's very possible that I made a mistake, so that is awesome. My sincerest apologies. Yes. Let's research colloquium, and then Barry actually comes up, and then Lorraine, you are at 9:30. I'm so sorry. I made a huge mistake. When we record this, we can cut this out, right?
Yeah, we cut this recording. There may be a bonus. This may be a bonus YouTube live for some of the YouTube folks. This section here.
Well, go team, go. Hello, YouTube. All right, Barry. My sincerest apologies to everyone. I misread my own schedule.
No worries. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our second research colloquium. Sorry,
we also remind people too that these glitches happen in live events too. So schedules, speakers, cords. So we're all good.
I think the world has learned to become a bit more kind as with Zoom and technology since the pandemic unfolded. And so I think we should be inviting Susanna Stradberg and Barry Pendergast to the stage. Fantastic, thank you. And so today's research colloquium, we've got, again, some high-level discussants who are going to bring some intriguing perspectives to the question of innovation or innovative solutions for healthy aging. Susanna joins us from Linnaeus University. She is a lecturer and doctoral student in the Department of Health and Department of Health and Caring Science within the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences. So thank you very much for joining us today, Susanna. And Barry joins us today from Calgary. Barry Pendergast is a retired architect who's very much involved within the community of healthy aging and aging in place. And he serves on two boards, Calgary Seniors Housing Society and Calgary Aging in Place Cooperative. And Barry is a champion for the integration of aging in place communities and supportive living facilities within the broader community as opposed to isolation. So thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. I think, Susanna, we'll begin with you. If you could give us your presentation, and we'll follow up with Barry afterwards. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. And today I'm going to talk about using innovative technology to enhance self-care management and physical activities of daily life living, PHDL, amongst older adults. And I'm a PhD student, as Barry told you. So, yes. This is the part of, this is the research team that I'm part of. And we have both people from Oh, sorry.
We're not seeing your slides if you're sharing them.
Okay.
How are you doing today, Barry? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out the change in the program. It had me thrown slightly.
Yeah.
But I guess we've done pretty well without too many glitches.
We have. All right, so back to Susanna and her presentation. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Yes, now we're on. So we can take the next slide, please. So I have the honor to be part of this research team and this group of people. We are from both Linnaeus University and Calgary University. And we also have some collaborations and foundings, Forte, DISA, Kamprad Family Foundation, and Savvy Corporation. And this project I'm going to talk about today is also a part of a bigger project called Confident in Every Step that Sofia Bakobar is a project manager of. And this project also belongs to the Reaction group here at Linnaeus University. And we are a research group focusing on improving resilient and sustainable healthcare and to make safe and equal continuity in healthcare. Yeah. So I'm here to talk about this project today, and we have this aim is to explore how video-based technology for older adults with hypertension and heart failure and their relatives can be developed to support their common preventive self-care process and independency in PHDL. As we know, there's a growing number of older adults globally, and many of them living with one or more chronic conditions. Often these people has a former carer as well or a partner. Many of them is managing their self-care, and it's a complex situation for many of them. We need today to focus on prolonging independence in older adults and their physical daily life activities. And today, the technology or ICT gives us an opportunity to promote healthy aging and self-care management and to explore how a healthy, active life among older people can be supported through an interactive, co-creative process. This project focuses on interactive technology, Move Improve, and it's a co-design project as well. We collaborate between older people, professionals, and researchers. It's an interactive process as well, where we work in cycles and repeating and improving. Yeah, next slide. So we have the opportunity to use Move Improve in this project. And as for those who were with us yesterday, we heard a lovely presentation from Andrea about Move Improve. So I'm just going to take a quick recap on for those who wasn't there. Move Improve is a platform or application that is used on Androids or iPads or iPhones. It's a peer-to-peer learning and can support and improve functional mobility, balance, confidence in people's mobility in everyday life. It's collaborative and you learn and it's great motivation. It's give you video feedback and structured reflection as well. And as for my focus on my PhD studies, I focused on self-care and self-care management for older people. So our question here was, could the Move Improve be used in this context and how could it be used? Next. So based on what Sofia did in Canada, in Calgary, together with her colleagues there, and we could use the Move Improve application. So the first phase is that we did tool development and person-centered design. We did the inventory of needs. focus on identifying what kind of needs our end users has, how can self-care management and PHDL enhanced and be empowered, what what capabilities is there. And second, we develop of content in app, how and what kind of content is useful. And so the question is, how will we get there? We did recruit 3 couples, persons with chronic illness and their informal carers or partner or friend. And we plan to start for a virtual workshop with focus on using focus group interviews, think out loud methods, observations, and to create a creative environment. For example, we use some sticky notes and mind maps and doing interactive workshops with these 3 couples. So first we planned to do a workshop series with 4 or 5 times that we met up digitally, and we have every second week we did the workshops. We used Zoom, and every workshop did have different focus, and also our participant or couples did get assignments as well to some kind of homework between our workshop sessions. So this indicates that we couldn't plan all of the content for all the workshop series, but we could, after each workshop session, evaluate and plan for our next session. So this means that we need to be flexible in this process, but we can still focus on the main aim of this project. So this is an ongoing project. So what have we learned so far? The couples or the participants says that the tool must be easy to use and decide what activity is beneficial for their chronic condition. The activity needs to be both challenging and fun and create motivation. The participant also found it valuable to be able to use the tool at home, in where they were encouraged to use it together. They also pointed out that to an increased awareness of difference in and how the activities in the Move Improve are performed. So the primary result showed that the video-based support needs to be adaptable to meet the people or the couple's needs and to enhance self-care management and PHDL. So where do we stand today? Today we have created and improved new activities that we are hoping to soon try out again. So these new activities in the Move Improve, we have new sound and text information, for example, that is improved, and hoping that this participant will soon get to test it, because it's based on their what we have learned from their workshop sessions earlier. Yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope that you have a lot of questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susanna. We will move ahead now with a presentation from Barry and then open it up for questions at the end, similar to the last session. And so to my namesake, Barry, if I could invite you to please share your presentation with us.
Okay. I don't know why I'm having some problems here finding my window. Ah, there we are. Can everybody see that?
We have it up. Thank you.
So I'm going slightly off from what Barry mentioned earlier on. It's a component of the whole area of senior care, which we're trying to do in Oak Ridge. We're doing some really wonderful things connected with the village-to-village network concept from the States. But what I'm going to focus on today is some of the work that I've been doing with innovative VR technology. So it all began, this journey into VR was at 82. I was playing around computer graphics as an architect at that time, but very intrigued about how graphics could be used on the computer. Then at the BAMP Center with the New Media Research Center, which was one of the first installations for virtual reality we had in the province, and then an obsession with stereoscopic cameras. What would happen in 2015, I was asked in my retired state as an architect by, in fact, Dean, who was organizing this event, from the Autism Asperger's Friendship Society to design a clubhouse so that they could do some fundraising. And I rashly said, I can put it into virtual reality. And I really didn't have a clue what that meant at the time. But my friend Jeff, who's in the picture there, who has autism, he had a headset, one of the first Oculus headsets, and I borrowed it and I programmed it and we went on the road. And this picture here is us at the Beer Fest in 2015. Kind of a very interesting place to go. Spent about 2 years working with Dean and then started to concentrate more on what could I do with virtual reality to improve my health. So there was a kind of a 2-year period. And then I came across in 2018, Brenda Stafford were doing their announcing of their dementia-friendly communities. And I was intrigued by what they were doing and the challenges, as we've even heard today, of people with dementia getting lost in their communities. And I thought, wow, some of the stuff I've been doing with virtual reality, I could actually start to use that. And over a period of time, we started to work with Brenda Stafford. And this was the second time that we were working. We spent a whole week working with residents from the Wentworth Manor, introducing them to virtual reality. And these were all clients or residents that were in the secure dementia ward. Now, Bob and Sharon Quinn have become quite good friends. Sharon has been, at the current time, 6 years in a secure dementia ward. And really, it's been a very interesting journey working with them. Also, I'm thankful to people like Dr. Larry Cates. Larry has allowed me in that in-between period to lecture a number of times with students. And it's been really enjoyable showing off all of our kind of gadgets and headsets, the exercise bike and so on. And Alex, you'll see, who was one of our previous speakers, is in the picture as well. So one of the 3 themes that I've been really looking at is customized solutions for those experiencing dementia and their families from onset to very severe, general fitness and gaming programs for seniors as a whole, and then starting to form a bottoms-up local seniors and programmers, digital artists, etc. co-op to explore and promote VR for seniors. One of the projects that I've been involved in at the University of Calgary and is getting underway again after the pandemic challenges, and that's reminiscence therapy with Dr. Linda David-Leisure. And we started off talking about copying or really using a project from Britain, which was like a walk down memory lane to help dementia, and we were going to put that into virtual reality. That didn't quite happen, but we're now hoping to start again very shortly. Well, we'll work with 5 groups. Each group will have a person with dementia. There'll be caregivers and so on, and we'll be using virtual reality, we hope, to bring those couples together. Last little while, I've started to work with 2 other universities, with Dr. Jennifer Bozier, University of Waterloo and University of British Columbia, Okanagan, and Laura Appel. And it's been amazing to have these new connections with people that are doing similar work to me or are way ahead of me. But this whole idea of collaboration is something I'm really keen to pursue now, working with people across the world, I guess, who are all doing similar things in this whole innovative era of using virtual reality. And Laura's just had me appointed as a senior advisor on this notion of prescribing VR, rather like a doctor might prescribe a medicine of some kind or an exercise of some kind. So the whole notion here is to prescribe VR in many, many different ways. Again, connections and collaboration are so important. And then coming to local people, helping them train to use a Quest. This is Elaine and Nigel Pro, and they just bought a Quest 2, and I've started the initial training with them, doing it completely remotely, and they're up and running. It's really quite. Where I started was with the Oculus DQ1 in 2015, moved across to the Rift. Now, both of these, we had to be tethered to a computer, which was a major limitation. The Oculus Quest, which I purchased late last year, is untethered, has limited augmented reality. It's the perfect platform. Gaming and exercise, I think, is important for everybody, particularly for seniors. And I'm tending to look at the solution on the right-hand side. The Peloton is very good, but it's really quite expensive. So using the Quest 2, using a used exercise bike, a sensor that fits on the shank of the pedal, and VisFit, which is something that allows me to cycle all over the world. Now, we've got a lot of buzz at the moment about augmented reality. I'm not going to focus too much on that this morning because Apple is going to be coming out with a superb system, but likely a very expensive system. And I'm trying to focus on low-cost solutions that everybody can use. Interestingly, the Oculus Go, which is an old model, is now coming back into favor because Oculus has actually opened up the ability for developers to work with it. And in fact, we have a number of people that are looking for old Oculus Go's if you happen to have one. Now, with the virtual reality, one of the challenges is safety, and this is really putting up a Guardian, which you can quite easily do. But Oculus has just changed the way in which the Guardian actually allows me now to see children coming into my secure zone, even pets and things like that, so I don't trip over them while I'm navigating the space. Building libraries has been a pretty important area, is building libraries. I built a number of libraries of Heritage Park in Calgary, 2 of them, the Stampede, the Zoo, Canmore, camping, nature and travel. Even top right-hand corner is jumping out of a plane. If everybody wants to really experience that, I can share that video with you if you've got an Oculus Quest headset. The other area which is a challenge, particularly working with people with dementia, is their ability to navigate. So we've been innovating ideas of gaze navigation, and I can answer some questions on that if anybody is interested. Then the whole notion of taking photographs. This is my first very simple 360 camera. It looks very distorted there, but when I look at it in the headset, of course, I see it perfectly. I purchased a Fuse 2 camera, which does 3D and 360 movies. So the movie at the top is part of a movie we did for Heritage Park. The one at the bottom is the Calgary Zoo, and you can actually see monarch butterflies, and they actually fly into the camera, and you can actually reach out and almost feel you're touching them. And then we're hoping with the university project here with the nursing faculties to buy a much better camera, which should much improve the quality of the output. And then the whole question of sensory impact to be visually and fully immersive from an audio sense. So that is quite special. As you move around in a VR space, you're actually hearing the sound relative to the direction you're pointing, rather like it is with being in a human's situation. This was one of the first events where we worked with Sharon Quinn and then about 20 other clients and residents in Wentworth Manor with the Brenda Stafford Foundation. And in this one, Sharon is actually visiting the Calgary Zoo and expressing really amazement of being able to walk around, and we have a monitor so we can see what Sharon is actually watching. And then what happened with Brenda Stafford, they decided to go to a Rendeavor system, which is like a group session. So 4 to 5 people can actually share in experiences, and it can be controlled by an iPad, as you can see the lady there. But I've gone back to Bob and Sharon Quinn, working now with Bob Quinn. And the last 5 weeks, I've been training Bob to use an Oculus Quest, and he, for an 85-year-old, is doing incredibly well. He's a very sprite and very fit person, senior. But we've been working together and getting him to be able to cast onto an iPad or a computer what he's seeing in the headset. He's actually now working by himself. We're also doing a number of things where we can train him and see what he's doing remotely, which is really a nice step forward. And then bottom left is Dana and Bob viewing family photographs that we've started to put into the system so that we can show them to Sharon. And then a very favorite photograph from 2018, Bob and Sharon actually sharing a joyful moment as they're looking at some fun things in the headset. So this is a recent shot of Sharon, where she's the first time that she used the Quest 2. She's actually watching a video of Machu Picchu. They used to travel a lot together, and Machu Picchu had some very fond memories. Although she has been slowly declining, she was apparently laughing and commenting on that particular video. Top right is where we're actually producing the photographs from a very, very memorable trip to Alaska, and we're hoping to show those to her soon. So these are the applications when I'm really trying to exercise myself. A number of them, I'll just show a very quick little video actually of some of those applications. Here I am on my exercise bike, a used exercise bike, which was $200. The gene sensor that fits on the shank of the pedal. So when I pedal, I can now cycle, in this case, through Vancouver or almost anywhere in the world. I'm out in the countryside, I've got this coach, or if I don't have a bike, I can actually exercise just by moving the controllers up and down. Or I can climb. Climb 2 is a wonderful app for learning how to climb. Table tennis is another one. I'm not particularly good, but I find it really helps my hand-eye coordination. Beat Saber is another popular one. I have to avoid the objects racing at me. And this is a new application I'm helping to beta test where I can travel anywhere in the world. And I'm actually traveling here to St. Mark's, Venice. And so I'm going to go in here, and I'd like to look at what the view is from that particular point in the square. So I pluck a pin, I just place it in the ground, and lo and behold, in the background, I should see, yes, I see that view. There's millions of these views now stored. As an architect, obviously, I love the Guggenheim Museum. So I'm actually now in New York. I've got the pin outside the building. I'm going to move the pin inside the building. Can I see inside? Sure enough, I'm inside. So there's millions of these 360 photographs that have been stored by Google over the years from 2007.
We'll have to ask you to wrap it up quickly, Barry.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, I can wrap it up really saying in terms of the case of dementia, we now have roughly 7% of the Canadian population who are suffering some level of dementia. And by 2030, it will have doubled. We've got to do something about that. Combined with and we've already heard it, Canadian nurses are leaving in droves because of the pandemic, but also it isn't a popular destination for nursing students. And so we have to find other ways of doing it. And we dealt with that yesterday, but I thought this was kind of a fun robot that I came across, almost a human type robot that actually can do so many of the functions that we need to do with people with dementia, even stopping them wandering, helping them with preparing simple meals and so on. And the last comment really is, at the moment, the estimate is it takes 15 years to go from research to actual use. We've got to find a way of shortening that. And then really the last part is what Facebook is now doing with these virtual workrooms, which are really opening up all manner of possibilities for us. As I said in the beginning, collaboration is important to me, and I would love to collaborate with anybody who wants to share what they're doing. And I'll certainly share what I've been doing. Just email me and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much. Brilliant presentation on the uses of VR as kind of a way of engaging people and broadening life experiences at an interesting time in life. So thank you very much, Barry. I'm hoping we can buy a couple minutes against our schedule for questions, given that we had a bit of a late start.
All right, Barry, why don't I make a recommendation? We have a break after our keynote, so why don't we loop back after the keynote for some Q&A?
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Alana. And thank you very much, Barry and Susanna. I really enjoyed your presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for your presentations. Okay, hopefully I have it right this time. For those of you who, first of all, Dean, if you don't mind just downloading and saving the questions so we can go back to it after. Welcome to those of you on YouTube Live. We are excited to have you back for our last keynote of the speaker series. If you have any questions for our keynote, please feel free to send me an email or Dean an email. Lorraine, I will invite you back up to the stage to introduce our last keynote.
Lovely. Thank you, Alana. Is oh yes, is Andrew here? I thought I would just check this time.
I don't see Andrew in the room unless he's in Kalmar or has a different avatar name. Andrew, if you're in the room, do you want to comment in the general chat? I don't see.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him either.
I can check my email, see if I've heard anything from. Here, I have an email. I will.
Oh, here's Andrew.
Is he there? There he is. Perfect. Got him. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, Anton. Oh, I thought Andrew didn't go. Here he is.
Hi, sorry about that. I was having trouble logging into the event, unfortunately, but now seem to be here.
No problem. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Andrew, or this evening in Sweden. So we will jump straight into the introduction, and then I'll hand the floor over to you. So this is our next and final speaker for this speaker series is Dr. Andrew Sixsmith. Dr. Sixsmith is a professor in the Department of Gerontology and director of the Star Institute at Simon Fraser University. He's also the Associate Scientific Director of AgeWell NCE, which is Canada's Aging Tech Network. His research interests include aging, social isolation, technologies to connect with people, technologies for independent living, technology policy and the digital divide, theories and methods in aging, and understanding the innovation process. His work involved leadership and advisory roles in numerous major international research projects and initiatives with government, academia, and industry partners. And we are really excited to welcome you to this series, Andrew, and to hear what you have to say. So I'll hand the floor over to you.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll share my screen. Can people see my screen? Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Can people see my screen?
No, we don't see it, Andrew. Are you on the same machine we tested?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I know Juliet sent me a backup presentation in case, so I'll give me 2 seconds and I'll bring that up.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. Oh, hang on.
There you go. You just need to choose the right.
I have. Yeah, have you? Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay.
But we see the real room. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
There we go. All right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. Okay. Technology for healthy aging. So thank you for inviting me here. I had hoped to be here in person in Calgary, but things didn't work out that way, and maybe next time, hopefully. And now the printer right next to my desk is now going to print away for the next 20 minutes. Is that disturbing everybody? No?
I don't hear any background noise. I think.
Okay, that's great. It's unfortunately disturbing me. I'm having a real tech meltdown today, so I'm probably not the best person to talk about how technology can help us to age healthily. But anyway, so I'm Andrew Sixsmith. I'm a professor at Simon Fraser University in the Gerontology department. and I'm also director of the Star Institute. And as was mentioned, I'm Associate Scientific Director of AgeWell, and it's really AgeWell that I particularly want to focus on today, and what AgeWell is doing in this area of age tech and healthy technology. Okay, so just to start with, I'm going to make probably the most obvious statement anybody's going to hear this year, which is that the global COVID-19 pandemic has been a disruptive force in all aspects of our lives. I think we all know that. Obviously, it has had a particular impact on older people, and I think we're aware of that. And it's also really brought home the fact that we live in a digital age. So the pandemic has had a major impact on the mortality and health of older people. It's changed the way that we access health services. It's highlighted social economic inequalities in health. So we've seen that certain groups within our societies have thrived much worse under the pandemic than other people. It's really highlighted the problems of long-term residential care. It's exacerbated social isolation and disconnection. And one area where I do a lot of work with community organizations that support seniors here in BC, in British Columbia. The pandemic has disrupted the way that those organizations and voluntary not-profit organizations provide help and support in the community. The pandemic's also made a difficult task even more difficult for family caregivers. It's also brought home that we really live in a digital age. I think we were aware of that, but we can see that we live in a different world than just a few years ago. I was speaking to some of our partners yesterday, community partners, and who provide information services and provide help and support to seniors living in Vancouver. And they've really had to change the way they do the work in a relatively short period of time. They've had to access information in much different way to what they did maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And this is very challenging for organizations to go through this kind of process. It's certainly the digital world that we live in now is a very different world to the one that older people were brought up in, including myself. I would put myself in this category. When I first started my academic career, personal computers had only just been invented. And luckily I was on the first wave of people who were able to make use of those. But over the last 30 or 40 years, we've seen huge changes. And adapting to the digital world is a really significant challenge for some people. So we'll be talking about that in a little while. So in this presentation, what I would like to really outline are the key opportunities for research and innovation within this sector, with this whole idea of healthy aging. So I'm going to be talking about cognitive health, how we can keep healthy, how our brain's healthy, talk about mental well-being, connectedness, social participation, and how we can live healthy, how technology might help us to achieve these things, and talk about healthy lifestyles and wellness. So just a little bit about AgeWell. So AgeWell is Canada's age tech network. The mission of AgeWell is to develop a community of researchers, older adults, caregivers, partners, and future leaders that accelerate the delivery of technology-based solutions that make a meaningful difference to the lives of Canadians, and more generally. So AgeWell has a lot of international connections. We do a lot of work with partners around the world. This sector is a global sector, and we're well aware of that. So AgeWell has been going since 2015 and has grown to be quite a significant organization across Canada now. So, for example, this slide's a little bit out of date. It's difficult to keep it up. We've been, just to do a very quick snapshot of what AgeWell is doing, we've funded around about 76 different research projects. So we're the major funder of research projects in the technology and aging space in Canada. And we complement the research funding that the various research funding councils in Canada, how they operate as well. Our network has created, has supported 19 startups in our time, and that is now growing. The number of jobs created by startups is growing every day. We pretty much cover every university in Canada in terms of where research is being done. We've also got a very major training program which focuses on providing additional training to students and highly qualified persons, so early career researchers. So provide the training in addition to their institutional training. So we provide training that is specific to this field of technology and aging. AgeWell has what we call 8 challenge areas, and these cover a wide range of what we believe are the major opportunities for how technology can help support well-being and health and independence in old age. We have literature on this, which we can provide to people if you're interested, and I'll provide some links at the end of this presentation. So this covers a whole range of areas, not just health and healthcare. So that's our challenge area number 2 here, but a much wider perspective on technology and aging than simply how can we provide healthcare using technology. It's around things like, can we make the homes that we live in more supportive to people as they grow older? Can we make the communities that we live in more supportive through technology? How can we support the autonomy and independence of people? So, for example, we often hear about independence in terms of being able to perform tasks of daily living, that kind of thing. But in many ways, the key thing here is people having control over their lives and being able to use technology to give them control over lives and make meaningful decisions about what happens to them as individuals. Cognitive health and dementia. It's a very major area, and I would like to talk about this in a little more detail. But also things such as mobility, transportation, and financial wellness and employment. All these are part of having a healthy life. And underlying all this, increasingly in the digital age that we live in, is the idea of being connected. Sorry. That, as I mentioned before, we live in a digital world, and being part of that digital world is now almost essential, or is essential, for us to be full participants within our economies and societies and communities in the mid-21st century. So what do we mean about staying connected here? Staying connected is about how digital information and communication technologies can connect people to families, friends, communities, government, employment, products and services and information. So everything that we do nowadays has some relationship to information and communication technologies and digital technologies. So this is very much about social participation, a person's involvement in community life, the economy and society. It's also, we also have to pay attention to the fact that for many people, isolation is a major issue in their lives. So this isolation is about limited connection with others. This may be due to factors such as simply living alone, or they may have health problems and disability, or sensory impairment, or some sort of significant life event such as the death of a family member or partner. Issues around loneliness, reduced contact with family and friends may lead to various adverse physical and emotional outcomes in older adults. And so these are things which we hear a lot about with older people. A big part of this, increasingly in a digital world, is digital exclusion. Not all older people have equitable access due to factors such as education, income, and gender. If we just drill down into social isolation as a key thing, studies show that participation in community activities positively influences health and socioeconomic outcomes for older adults. So simply participating in our everyday world is a major predictor of health. If we survey people, so for example, seniors in Canada, those people aged over 65, in normal times, prior to the pandemic, approximately 20% of seniors in Canada would experience social isolation, or say they would experience some level of social isolation. This in itself can lead to stress, depression, cognitive decline, and can affect physical health. And indeed, the pandemic has exacerbated the problem of social isolation. I can hopefully, if I've got time, cover some data on this that we have in Canada. And this has been particularly challenging for vulnerable and socially isolated groups. So this presents rather a negative picture, but the cloud of COVID-19, if we can think of the pandemic as some sort of cloud, it does have some silver linings. These impacts also represent some kind of opportunity for us. So we can use the word disruption here. These are unprecedented times for everybody, especially with seniors. We've seen high death rates. We've talked about social isolation. I've highlighted some of the problems in long-term residential care that I might talk about a little bit more. But we're seeing also that technology is being used in more and different ways. So I think the pandemic has really kind of forced us to think about how technology can be used to support people, to support the population in general during the pandemic, and older people more specifically. So how can we use technology to support the health and well-being of seniors and caregivers? So for example, the federal government in Canada, very soon after the pandemic hit, announced 350 million Canadian dollars of support for community organizations to support vulnerable groups, including seniors. There's a specific mention of technology role here. So what we should be thinking here is that can we think in creative and innovative ways of using technology to connect people better and to support their healthy lives. So if we look at what AgeWell has been doing over the, as I mentioned, we started in 2015, but right now we have, in our challenge area of staying connected, we have a number of projects which are related to being connected within the digital world. These include inclusive interactive apps to reduce older adults' social isolation and digital marginalization. We have research which is looking about how we can use social media more more constructively to provide information to older adults and to support them in their everyday lives. We have projects around the use of socially assistive robots for providing telecare and telehealth services and supporting daily activities of older adults. We have actually two projects in the area of social robots, socially assistive robots, and particularly looking at how robots can be beneficial to people in their everyday lives as robotics become a more available technology in the future, and particularly getting the perspectives of potential end users of robots to drive our research program in this area. One area where we've been doing a lot of work is the area of big data and artificial intelligence. And one project here I'd just like to highlight is by my colleague here at Simon Fraser University, Teddy Costco, which is entitled Precision Mental Health. And this is really, can we use the data that is available from many different sources to provide more targeted support to people, to their psychological well-being. And I feel this is a really major area that we can have a big impact on, primarily because mental health services are generally not very well done in British Columbia and I suspect worldwide. And we can certainly provide more person-centered mental health support in the community. And if we can use the data that is available from different sources, whether that is, for example, healthcare records or wearable technologies or whatever, I think we potentially could provide much better support in the community. One project which I would like to highlight is a project called FamilyNet, and this was developed in AgeWell as one of our first projects. And the aim is to provide an easy-to-use communication platform that helps older adults to keep contact with their families and friends. It's particularly great for older adults with little or no computer experience. So there's a link here to FamilyNet if you want to pick up on that. Particularly in the pandemic, it was became a very important thing, and we really pushed FamilyNet as the pandemic hit to provide help, particularly for people in long-term residential care who were experiencing a lot of isolation and a lot of fear in long-term residential care here in British Columbia and across Canada. And this was a really valuable tool. Sorry, I'm trying to pick up on something here. It was a really valuable tool to keep families connected during the pandemic. It was an interesting model that was implemented. Is that the customer for this was really the family member. So we provided a very low-cost tablet to a family member who then configured the system with help and support from our partners, and that was used by the older adult in long-term residential care, and that was proved very, very useful in the very challenging times that we've experienced during the pandemic. We've also been looking over the last last year or so at how COVID-19 has impacted on people's everyday lives. So our research here has been to look at how older people and older adults and caregivers have experienced the COVID-19 pandemic, what technology-based solutions are being used during the pandemic, and how we might be able to use technology better to respond to the needs of older adults and caregivers. So we undertook a survey of about 1,000 older adults across Canada last year to get a sense of how the pandemic was affecting them and how they were using technology. The feedback that we got, first of all, around isolation and the impact on everyday lives. As I mentioned previously, round about 20 to 25% of older adults would say in normal times that they experience social isolation, so before COVID-19. During the pandemic, we've seen that rise to round about 2/3 of older adults who responded to our survey reported feeling socially isolated during the COVID-19 restrictions. It's not a surprise. What we did find also was that many older adults have responded very positively and creatively to the pandemic through adopting technology to address their to address this issue of social isolation. So what we've seen over the last months is a very big increase in people who are now own smartphones. So, for example, 2/3 of Canadians aged 65 and older now own a smartphone, compared to 58% the previous year before. Most of those who do own a smartphone will use it daily. During the pandemic, seniors have increased the use of video calls as a way to communicate with family and friends. About a quarter of Canadians 65 and over now use video calling on their smartphones, twice as many as in 2019. And the majority of those report increased use during the COVID-19 pandemic. So what are the take-home messages from this? First of all, older people say that they are comfortable with using digital technologies. So in a kind of a way, from an age tech perspective, this is one of the silver linings here. It's really brought home that older people are not innately technophobic. I think there's a kind of a stereotype within our society that older adults are not interested, not able, or want to use technology. That is wrong. Many people have been able to adapt to social distancing regimes that have been imposed. And many older people report being comfortable with using technologies such as smartphones and computers, etc. And many report using new technologies to connect with families and friends. So in many ways, COVID-19 has been a disruptor. It's pushed people to find new ways to connect. It's really highlighted the fact that long-term care, and I think this is a worldwide issue, not just here in Canada or British Columbia, it's something that needs to be addressed in a much more systematic and structural way. Long-term care, residential care as a whole, needs to be overhauled, both as indeed long-term care in the community needs to be better funded and better supported. We are seeing also since the pandemic that an increased use of telehealth as a means for delivering services. Now, telehealth has been around for many, many years, but really has not really taken off as had been originally expected. But we should see telehealth, the use of information communication technologies to connect healthcare providers to patients as a means of delivering services. It's not going to work in all circumstances for everybody, for all situations, obviously, but it should be a way of or a useful way of delivering some of the healthcare services within our community. So where are we going in AgeWell with our research in this area of healthy lifestyles and wellness, and how can we use technology to support healthier lives as we grow older? So I'm leading an AgeWell Challenge Area project on this specific topic of healthy lifestyles and wellness. The focus of this is really on what can we do to, as individuals, to live healthier lives. And I think this area covers issues such as how can we have healthy bodies? How can we have healthy minds? How can we have healthy brains? How can we live our lives more generally, to be healthy? This is something which requires us to take a lifespan perspective, because many things that we do early in lives has a big impact on how we experience our old age. One of the things that or one paper that I've read recently, which really had quite an impact on me, is that we've not seen the prevalence rates. That's the proportion of people with a particular health care condition. We've not seen prevalence rates change at all in terms of the major chronic healthcare conditions that we experience in old age. We haven't seen those change in the last 70 years. So what we have seen is an increase in the numbers of older people within our population, and vastly increasing numbers of people with chronic healthcare conditions because of the aging of populations. So really, the longevity that we've had or the longevity increases that we've witnessed over the last 50 or so years they've not been accompanied by healthier lives. Basically, what we can say is that old age tends to be accompanied by chronic disease. Okay, so really, what we should be thinking about in the future is how can we add life to the years that we've gained in terms of longevity over the last decades. So what can we do about this as communities, about government, how the commercial sector can contribute to that, but we also have our own individual responsibilities about this. How can we live our lives healthier? And can technology and help in that respect? So one area where I think really has a lot of potential is in the area of is brain health. Now, while I mentioned previously that chronic disease appears to have the same level of same prevalence within our populations, there is some evidence that brain health has improved over the last few decades. It's the one area where within this whole field of chronic ill health in old age, where there does seem to be some positive data. And a recent report by the Lancet in the United Kingdom has highlighted that perhaps up to 40% of the prevalence of dementia is either avoidable or could be delayed. Now, to me, that's a very, very significant amount. If we could even achieve a part of that, that would have a major impact on how we can respond to the really very difficult challenges that dementia creates. It would certainly improve the quality of life of many, many people if we could delay or even prevent dementia in their lives. It would certainly reduce the very significant demands that people with dementia make on healthcare systems and resources. So what can we do in this area? Promoting brain health is roundabout promoting health in general. It has brain health is very much linked to physical health, social health in general. So generally, healthier lifestyles is going to promote brain health. But we can do things which can help people to remain healthy and active in terms of their cognitive health. For example, earlier diagnosis of changes in their cognitive status may help us to identify opportunities for interventions to support brain health as people get older. So can we connect with people to avoid the decline into more serious levels of dementia? What sort of interventions can we do to support that? So there are a lot, in my opinion, things that we can do in this area, and it's certainly an area that is very much exciting me, and is going to be an area that I'm going to be spending quite a lot of time on as we go forward. Just some background to this: Simon Fraser University here in Vancouver are developing a new neuroscience institute at Simon Fraser University, which is really going to connect those people who are working in this whole area of health, of brain health, together. So that, again, this is a collaborative effort. We'll be bringing together people working within the social gerontology fields, such as myself, but also people working in the neuroscience field, people working in brain imaging, but also people working in the neurobiology, looking at things at cellular level, that kind of thing. That brain health is one of those areas where it needs to bring together scientists and researchers working in this field if we're going to make a significant difference. My role in this is fairly limited because I'm not a neuroscientist, but my role in particular will be focusing on things such as how can individual older adults connect with the information that is coming out of the research in a meaningful way. So really focusing on the knowledge mobilization in terms of the research that we're going to be conducting, and seeing how we can flow that information to really support better services in the community to support cognitive health, but also providing information to people about what cognitive health is and how they can age well as they grow older. So I think I'll draw it to an end there. If people want to find out more about what we're doing broadly within Age Well, the STAR Institute that I'm director of, there's plenty of information here for you to pick up on, and I'm more than happy to answer questions and provide more information to people if they want it. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much for your talk. It was absolutely amazing. So if anyone has any questions, please put them in the Q&A. All right. I'm just checking on our YouTube live to see if we have. Okay. How do people get funding from AgeWell?
Oh, right. That's a good question. We have a various research projects currently funded. So our major funding is now has now been spent, unfortunately. However, I think there are, over the next couple of years, going to be projects which are or funding streams which are going to be coming open. And these are going to be more focused on implementation. So rather than being about research which is going to fund, lab-based research that is going to develop a particular technology, it's more about implementation. And indeed, that's the direction that AgeWell is going to be going in the next few years, very much focused on making the most out of the technologies that AgeWell has developed, what industry within Canada has developed, the technologies that are available around the world to support healthy aging and wellness. So while we don't have a huge amount of money on specific research projects in the age tech space, there is going to be funding coming available in terms of implementation. And we also provide a lot of help and support to researchers and businesses in the age tech space. So that again is another focus of what AgeWell is trying to do: provide the help and support to particularly to startups when they're just finding their feet.
Great. Do you have any international collaborations at this point?
We do. So AgeWell operates at different levels. So we have a number of what we call core research projects, and a lot of those are connected to wider research programs. So all our researchers within Canada are connected in various ways through to international researchers. So having that international dimension or connection is one of the things that we really try to push with our researchers on a individual project or researcher basis. We do have international connections and partnerships with various organizations globally. Some of these are global organizations, such as we have worked with the WHO, for example. We have a partnership with something called the European Connected Health Alliance in Europe, which is an organization that supports businesses and initiatives and innovation within the age tech sector in healthcare across Europe. We also have a partnership with something called the Northern Health Science Alliance in the United Kingdom, where we do joint activities such as training activities, workshops, that kind of thing. But AgeWell, and I'm particularly very keen that because this age tech sector is a global thing, that Canada just doesn't look inwardly on this, is that we do need to connect with researchers, innovators across the world if we're going to make the most of the opportunities that technology offers us. And I do know we have a lot of people from Sweden in the audience.
Yes.
I personally have worked with people in Sweden on many projects in the past. For example, occupational therapists at University of Lund and the Karolinska Institute, University of Linköping, places like that. So I'm very happy to have so many people from Sweden in the audience.
Amazing. Yes, it's been an amazing collaboration. So the next question we have is, with the implementation focus, can you talk a bit about how AgeWell supports interdisciplinary collaborations? So between technology developers, care providers, researchers, advocacy groups, etc.
Yeah, so very early on, that was something that we became aware was a hugely needed thing within the research community. But typically, when people say they do interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary work or whatever they want, when they say that, they may do it, but maybe not in a way that is really taking the research into the real world. That's the big deal that AgeWell is really keen to achieve, to do fantastic research, obviously, but to make sure that that research has real world impact. So we see the whole research and innovation pipeline, so to speak, as being something that's connected. So this requires, if we're going to make an impact from research into innovation, it requires us to connect with stakeholders across the whole of that pipeline, right from early ideas, so driving the research agenda. What are the problems? What are the things that that people really want to address within their everyday lives? So, for example, this issue of social isolation during the pandemic has really hit home. So we have a lot of interest in this area of social isolation and how we can ameliorate that problem, whether through technology or by other means. But certainly it's an issue that's raised. So what are the problems? But through to developing ideas for solutions, through to working with stakeholders, so that's older adults and caregivers themselves, the service providers. So I do a lot of work with grassroots community organizations who are involved in providing help and support to vulnerable people in Vancouver. So we realized that, well, me as a researcher, I can do all the research that I want and have, publish papers, get a salary, etc., etc. But is it making an impact on the people who live down the road from me here? And that's always something that's troubled me personally and was a driving force in how we've organized AgeWell. So I'll give you a good example of this, is that we've, in British Columbia and across Canada, we've very rapidly adopted a vaccine passport system, have we not? And it's different from province to province. This was implemented in a very short period of time in this September. It's caused a huge amount of disruption and anxiety to older adults in our community. It's caused a lot of issues for the community organizations that provide help and support to seniors here in British Columbia. Now, I've no doubt having a vaccine passport is a useful thing in the context of a pandemic, but how it's implemented could have been done better. Things could have been predicted. Some of the issues that happened when it was actually implemented, in my mind, could have been sorted out before it was done. So in many ways, community organizations such as the ones that I work with have had to pick up those pieces. And that has been very challenging for them. So when we talk about the use of technology, the implementation of technology, we have to be aware that any new technology, any new system is going to be disruptive. And we need to particularly look at those individuals and organizations that are at the margins of society, that they're typically the people who are going to be disrupted in negative ways. People such as myself, I just about managed to cope with the vaccine passport and our health gateway, that we call it here in British Columbia. But it's not an easy thing to adapt to. So we really need to understand how the implications of technology as well as we can before they're actually implemented. And then when they are implemented, really deep dive into how these are changing the way that we do things. This requires us to do research and innovation in a completely transdisciplinary way, right? It requires input from everybody and all the different sectors. It requires different sorts of research skills when we're doing it. So very much AgeWell is about supporting that model of research.
All right, thank you. How do you work with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030, for example, the climate action?
Yeah, so to be honest, I will put my hands up and say that the climate issue has not figured particularly strongly in AgeWell's research program, right? And I am aware of that. So we haven't really focused on that, and I would agree with that. And I'm not surprised. Does that question come from somebody in Sweden?
I was anonymous.
No. Oh well, yeah. So you know, here in British Columbia, we're very well aware of the leading role that certain Swedish people have played in climate action in recent years. I actually think this is an important issue, you know, and I think it would be the whole issue of aging could be seen within a kind of a global sustainability perspective, which we don't typically look at aging from that perspective. I do quite a lot of research and teaching in the demography side of things, and I'm seeing some very, very significant changes across the world. When we think about aging, we tend to think about the first world, about the developed worlds, you know, countries like Canada and Sweden. What we're going to see in the next decades are very, very significant demographic shifts in lower and middle income countries. A good example, for example, is Nigeria. Nigeria's population is probably going to exceed that of the United States by mid-century. It could possibly rise to about 1 billion people in population in Nigeria by the end of the century, surpassing that of China, which may have decreased to 750 million by the same time. Now, when we look at aging as a proportion of that population, we can see that the proportions might not be changing, but in terms of actual numbers, that's very, very significant. Very significant growth in the numbers of older adults across our world. How do we support that? How do we create health? How do we help them to be healthy? And how do we create supports for those people who are going to be having the chronic diseases that are associated with old age, increasingly in developing countries? So when we look at things from a sustainability perspective, I do totally agree that on a global scale, this is very significant. And I am aware that the WHO and the United Nations has recently launched its decade of healthy aging 2021 to 30. So that is something that the work that I'm going to be doing, particularly in healthy lifestyles and brain health, how I can connect with initiatives within that framework.
All right. I think we have time for 2 more questions.
All right.
The first one's really fast. If you don't mind, at the end of your presentation, putting in the citation for the Lancet paper, the report on 40%
Oh,
of
right.
dementia.
Yeah. I will make a note of that. It's so the Lancet published a couple of papers last year on this topic of the prevalence and incidence of dementia and the risk factors associated with dementia. And I think we should take that very seriously. And I am aware that we in Canada, the Canadian Institute of Health Research has a number of research institutes, one of which is CIHR's Institute on Aging. And a recent presentation by Jane Rylett, who is the director of the Institute on Aging, highlighted this opportunity. And I think it's an opportunity that we should take very, very seriously. My dad has dementia. It's horrible for him. And it's horrible for my brother and sister who live in England, having to look after him. Like my dad's not horrible, but what he's got is pretty bad now. And yeah, I'm looking at my dad and thinking, well, am I going to be looking like that in 20 or 30 years' time? So yeah, if there's things that we can do about dementia, we should be doing them.
Okay. So then I guess to wrap up, when you look at the various projects that you're working on right now, which one of them do you think will have the most impact in the next year?
Well, the couple of ones that I've already mentioned. The work that Teddy Cusco is working on in Vancouver on precision mental health, I do believe we can support. So mental health traditionally has been an under-resourced and an under-recognized area within healthcare services. It exists at a level which doesn't really hit the headlines too often. And a lot of people are living with low-level mental health issues that are generally going to contribute to poor health more generally. And this has been exacerbated by the social isolation we've been experiencing. So if we can provide better community supports to people and to make those supports more targeted where and when they need them, then I think that's going to be really, really helpful. So I think that's one area where we could make a difference. And then clearly, can we use technology to support cognitive health, brain health and cognitive health as we go forward? So my project is going to be on healthy lifestyles and how healthy lifestyles can support healthy cognitive health. It's going to be one part of a much bigger picture here at SFU on cognitive health going forward. So that's something I'm very excited about.
All right. I know we're just over time, but one other question just popped in, if you wouldn't mind. Knowing there's a link between overall physical health and brain health, will there be some focus on physical activity as an intervention for those with dementia specifically?
I think that is very true. There's a whole the brain is a physical organ in its own right, and being healthy in a physical way is important, but also it's an organ that is different in many ways. So we can see that risk factors for brain health and cognitive health do include social factors, being connected socially, being active. I was in a paper that was published recently, which was looking at everyday activities and its impact on as a risk factor and a protective factor in cognitive health. I've seen fairly well established research which is looking at, say, for example, participation in activities such as music making has benefits in terms of cognitive health. So there are a lot of things that are predictors of cognitive health, and that to me gives us opportunities. So it's not just about, well, we need better physical exercise. I think that so better physical activity, better nutrition, better sleep, less stress. These are all factors which contribute to better cognitive health. But there's a whole range of other things that we can look at as well. And if we can make some level of difference, that could be huge, you know. So I think it's beholden on us all to really work towards this.
All right, well, thank you so very much for your time, both for the presentation and for your answers. I'm sure lots of our participants will want to continue to engage with you, so we really hope that you stick around for the next little bit. For those of you on YouTube Live who have stuck with us for the last 2 days, thank you. We greatly appreciate you participating and for bearing with us as we get through our streaming issues. We hope that you will join us for future symposiums, so stay tuned for some other speaker series that are coming down the pipeline. For those of us in the symposium, we've had a quick update to our schedule, so if you will bear with me for some adminning, I will run through that with you. We have some Q&A for our presenters from now till 11:45, and then we'll have a 5-minute break at 11:45 to 11:50. All of this is in MST. From 11:50 to 12:10, we'll have design thinking, and from there we'll go to our collaboration, and last but not least, we'll have our closing remarks. So let's all take a deep breath and get back to our presenters from before. Barry and Suzanne, if you guys don't mind coming to the stage. Again, Andrew, thank you so much. We hope that you stick around, and let's get back to our Q&A.
Oh, welcome back, everybody. Picking up this thread from where we were before.